Hello everyone. Well, as some of you know, I recently made a video doing a preview of Gen 2 mounts before they had made it to our version of the game, just taking a look at some translated screenshots from other versions of the game and some general basics. And now it is official, we do have Gen 2 mounts in our version of the game finally, on at least server 1 and I believe most of the earlier servers. I'm not sure about the newest servers, but you should be getting it relatively soon as well. So with that said, now that we have the system officially in our game, I just wanted to take a look at it all together and see what it all means for us and understand what really is the best mounts for each class, how should you be approaching it, how should you be spending your fragments, can we still get Gen 1 mounts, and so on and so forth. So let's start by taking a look at the system in the camp menu. So as we know, as I had said before, the Gen 2 mounts come with their own separate summon. Now what is interesting is that the dailies, when you look at the dailies here, I'll pull this up now, they still give Generation 1 mount tickets. I'm not sure if after this weekly reset, if this will update along with the weeklies to start giving the Generation 2 mount tickets, or if we will continue to get Gen 1 mount tickets from the dailies and weeklies. I'm not 100% sure, but I guess we will find out on this coming Monday. But with that said, we do have these two separate pulls. Now, the loot available in the Gen 2 mount summons is going to be the legendary Gen 2 mounts, the new advanced mount selection points, but as you'll see here, they have in fact included the old mount selection points as well, which means you still have a chance to get some more fragments for the Gen 1 mounts alongside the Gen 2 mounts, so you can still make some small limited progress to slowly get all of your Gen 1 mounts to 5 gold stars as well. So, with that said, let's now jump and take a look at the mounts themselves in the mount menu. So we have 4 new mounts. We have the Vehicle Mark III, we have the Husky, we have the Walking Sparrow, and we have the Rainbow. Now you will see from a stats point of view that they closely mimic the Gen 1 mounts. You have Crit and Endurance with Rock and Crit and Endurance here with Rainbow, Mastery and Block with Walking Sparrow, and Mastery and Block with Ralph, and etc, etc. So eventually the goal will be in fact to have all 4 of the Gen 2 mounts here, unless you're looking for some different stats from your supports, in which case it may be worth running a Gen 1 and a Gen 2 mount. Like say for example you desperately needed more haste in your build, you could run in fact the Gen 2 mount with haste and a Gen 1 mount with haste as well to get even more haste here, just as a way of approaching this. So before we move on, I want to take a look at each mount individually and get a sense of which ones make the most sense for each class in the game. So let's take a look at the mounts one by one, starting with Husky. So Husky, as we've established, gives haste and tenacity. Now the Gen 2 mounts quickly are legendary, which means they will eventually get higher stats than the Gen 1 mounts, but as you can see here, they may give slightly less stats at the beginning until they get more stars, but we will look at that in a little bit. So Husky's opening attack here: increase the damage enemies take from you by 12% plus 2800, and every 0.25 seconds randomly increase the damage taken by one target by an additional 1% for 2 seconds. This effect lasts for 30 seconds. So this is a very nice damage increasing ability, and when you look at these star-ups, you will see that this actually does eventually get to a higher level than Rock does. So Rock I think gets to 20%, and this ability here eventually gets to a 25% damage increase. So at max stars, or at sorry, what star level was that? 1 second. I believe it was gold stars here. Yeah, so once you get to 2 gold stars, you'll see here it increases damage taken up to 25%, which means Rock right now, which I have 5 gold stars, you'll see increases damage that enemies take by me by 20%, and when I fully max Husky, it'll give 25%. So actually, Husky will be the best Gen 2 mount for DPS. Husky is going to be the best Gen 2 mount for DPS because you not only have this base X% damage plus 2800, you also have this additional every 0.25 seconds you randomly increase the damage taken by one additional target, which means in a one target fight like a boss, this is just basically even more extra damage. So you're trading Rock's additional part of his ability, which you see here, additionally reduces the damage enemies deal, but that's not that important for us as DPS. So this additional effect of Husky, which further increases your DPS by a little bit here, is even better. And you'll see here that Husky gets the additional effect that Rock also has, which means in boss battles, once the opening skill effect ends, you deal into 10% of your accumulated damage during that time as true damage. So, long story short, Husky is by far the best Gen 2 mount for DPS. So let's move on to the next, which we'll look at Vehicle Mark III here. So Vehicle Mark III is a dealing damage mount. So deal damage, 80,000% attack, and I'm sure as this stars up, this is going to go to absolutely absurd. Yeah, 210,000% attack. The thing is, as big as this damage sounds, it just is not going to scale. It's just not going to scale to the same extent as Husky will from a DPS perspective. Like having this one big opening attack and then it triggering again later, it just doesn't have the same impact as Husky's just straight up damage increase from the opening skill. Like this is way more impactful, especially as your DPS scales up. Your DPS is always going to be way more important than this one-off attack here. So Vehicle Mark III, to me, is not important, at least from an opening skill point of view. It's not useful for healers, it's not useful for tanks, it's not useful for DPS. So this is not one you're going to consider keeping in your main slot at all. Now next up we have Rainbow. Now Rainbow, as you can see here, increases the character's attack by 16% and mastery by 5%. So you know exactly what I'm going to say, don't you? This is a sick mount for healers. That's right, this is a really, really nice mount for healers. Healers, if you're listening, get Rainbow. You're going to love it. And when you do preview and look it up, you'll see here up to 40% attack increase here. That's massive. So this is going to absolutely supercharge your heals, not just from the attack increase, but from the mastery increase as well. So this is a really, really good healer mount, the best Gen 2 mount for healers. So Husky is the best Gen 2 mount for DPS, Rainbow is the best Gen 2 mount for healers. No question about it. Just straight up, it's amazing. And now we have the final mount, and hopefully this will be good for tanks. Let's see, let's read the skill together. So, opening skill, increase the damage dealt by the character by 14%, plus every 6 seconds, gain a shield equal to 8% of max HP. Interesting. And you can only gain the shield once in main story. So, very, very nice defensive mount for a change. We have a great defensive ability. In Gen 1, the only tank that, the only Gen 2, the only Gen 1 mount that had any half decent ability for tanks was Rock. Because of this, here, it reduced the damage you deal by only 2%. It was almost meaningless, almost negligible. But here we have an ability that not only increases your damage by a little bit, you get this additional nice shield every 6 seconds. So this is a very nice additional tanking ability to have. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, the Walking Sparrow is going to be the best in slot Gen 2 mount for tanks. So it's very nice because the Gen 1 mounts kind of had a really nice DPS one, a pretty good healer one with Toby, and then tanks kind of just went with Rock just because there was nothing else better for them. But now we have a very, very clear division. Husky is the best for DPS. Rainbow is the best for healers. Walking Sparrow is the best for tanks. Done. That's how that works. So if you're wondering which mount you should have in your main slot, that's the one you should be going for. Now, when it comes to what you should actually be doing, should you be like, let's say for example, you're a spender, you got a few of these packs at the beginning when they released the Gen 2 mount system, and you're sitting on a few fragments, and you're wondering, what should I really do? Should I try to unlock all the mounts first? Should I spend all my fragments on one mount only? And the answer is, honestly, after thinking about it, because you know my wife and I play the game, so Natasha went the direction of putting all of her fragments into the best for DPS. So she put all of her fragments into Husky, and I went for the alternative approach. I used all my fragments to get all the mounts first. And after analyzing the better approach, I think the best approach, if you have spent and you have gotten all these fragments sitting in your bag, spend them all on the best mount for your class. So if you're a healer, spend them all on Rainbow. If you're a tank, spend them all on Walking Sparrow. And if you're a DPS, spend them all on Husky. Now, what's interesting about Gen 2 mounts is that it is a system that is going to be actually inversely important to whales versus DPS. And what I mean by that is, if you're a DPS, if you're a free-to-play player and you have your mount progression here, compared to the progression a whale will be at, it will be much easier for you to transition your Gen 1 mounts to Gen 2 mounts because of the amount of stars you're going to have at this point in the game. But you can see here, for example, I have a 5 gold star rock. It's going to take me a long time before I'm going to actually swap my rock for Husky, because it's, 5 gold stars versus a 2 blue star Husky. There's no comparison. The opening skill is just not even close as far as damage yet. So I'm going to have to collect a lot more Husky copies until I can actually swap it out here. But what I can do, and what's interesting here, because actually what you'll see is, and I'm going to change Toby back here. So one thing, oh wait, sorry, I'm being silly here. Rainbow, right? Do I need crit? No, I need mastery. I'm going to put Walking Shadow back. Boom. Okay, so I've got Determination, Haste, and Mastery. So one thing that's interesting is, you saw actually by equipping these 3, my overall combat power actually went down. My overall combat power went down by equipping the Gen 2 mounts because of the star levels of my previous Gen 1 mounts. But what's interesting is, watch what happens here. So I'm going to swap out Walking Sparrow. So let me just do this quickly. So this is Mastery. I'm going to put Ralph back on. So my combat power went up, but let's take a look what happens. So my Mastery here is 31.4%. 31.4%. And I'm going to go back in here, and I'm going to change Ralph to the new Mastery, Walking Sparrow. And my combat power went down, but my Mastery went up. So I was like, okay, well, wait a second. So actually what's interesting is, though, even though your combat power will go down if you equip a lower star Gen 2 mount compared to the Gen 1 mount you had, you will actually get additional stats in the actual stat that you're looking for here. So I got more Mastery from the legendary Gen 2 mount here than I did from the Gen 1 mount. So that's something that I found quite interesting. And ultimately, I think the best approach here is focus on the, like I said, focus on the main mount that you need first, and then once you have it, start working on the others afterwards. So if you're a free-to-play player, you'll get your main mount first, and then start spending any fragments you get to unlock the next 3 afterwards. If you're a spender who gets additional fragments, pour them all into Husky, and then just get these copies naturally from doing summons. So that's the best approach there. And ultimately, your state of progression in the mount system is going to determine when it makes sense for you to transition your main mount from Gen 1 to Gen 2. And it's going to be whenever you can get a better opening skill. And as well, as you are probably now painfully aware, you're going to have to re-roll all of your stickers as well, which is a bit of a pain. So if I say, great, I've got my Husky now, I'm going to change, and they're gone. Which is a bit painful, honestly. It's like, I've got all these sick legendary stickers, and I need to do it all over again. And I need to get basically to legendary 4 stars of Husky before I can get all 4 of my stickers back, which is a bit of a pain. It's a bit of a pain, and because of that, like I said, I'm going to need a heck of a lot of Husky copies before I can actually replace Rock with it. So that's something you have to keep in mind. You're going to have to redo all your stickers again. Depending on your level of progression here, it might take a while before you can eventually equip the Gen 2 mounts. But again, don't forget about this, the bonus skill here. When you get all 4 of the Gen 2 mounts, it activates this bonus after deploying the opening skill. Damage dealt by the character is amplified by 2%, healing increases by 1%, and reduces damage taken by 1%, and it lasts for 90 seconds. So a very nice bonus skill here that lasts for 90 seconds after you activate the opening skill. And this, like I said, becomes active the second you collect all 4 of the Gen 2 mounts. Now, the level here, you see this is level 1. Like I said, as you continue to star up the Gen 2 mounts, this is going to increase in level, and each additional level is simply going to increase the effects. So because of that, that's why if you're a whale, use all your extra fragments from the packs on your main mount for your class, and then level up and unlock the others just through summons. If you're a free-to-play player, get all your fragments into your main mount first, and then slowly unlock the next 3 as well, so you can unlock this activated bonus skill here. So that's pretty much the best approach. You know, it's interesting. Gen 2 mounts are not like such a huge increase in power. Like you saw, it's like a 5% increase. It's like an additional 5% increase for the attack as well. It is an iterative increase from Gen 1 mounts. And so as, you know, like I said, depending on your progression in the system, you're going to have to determine at what point does it make sense to actually swap to the new mount for your main one. You'll probably be able to equip the new mounts into your supports slots sooner than later. But other than that, it's up to you depending on your progression when you're going to swap the opening skill to the new one. So there you have it. Again, just a quick summary. The best in slot for DPS is Husky. The best in slot for healer is Rainbow. And the best in slot for tank is your walking Sparrow. So hopefully that helps give you a better idea how you should approach the Gen 2 mount system. It's ultimately going to be determined, like I said, by your actual progression in Gen 1 mounts, which is going to decide how you start your progression to Gen 2 mounts. So if you feel like I've missed anything or you have any further questions, please leave it in the comments down below. If you liked the video, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you have not already, and join us on Discord. The link is in the description down below. So thank you so much for watching. Good luck with your Gen 2 mount summons. Hope you get really good RNG, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye now.